The mansion was silent, except for the faint laughter of two children echoing down the long hallway. It was early. Too early for laughter in the Kingston house. Raymond Kingston, one of the city's most successful millionaires, stood at the doorway, suitcase in hand. He had returned home without notice. No calls, no messages. He wanted to surprise his twins, maybe even test if everything ran perfectly while he was away. He didn't expect this sound. It wasn't the usual noise of cartoons blaring or toys crashing to the floor. It was something softer. Laughter mixed with words, gentle, patient, and kind. He walked slowly down the corridor, his polished shoes silent against the marble floor. Every step he took made the sound clearer. And then he stopped. There, in the grand living room, a room filled with crystal chandeliers, marble pillars, and designer furniture, sat Maya, the maid. A young black woman, no older than 25, her hair tied back neatly, her face glowing with warmth. Around her, sitting cross-legged on the floor, were his 6-year-old twins, Emma and Ethan, giggling as Maya showed them something written on a piece of cardboard. The words were painted in bright colors, uneven, but full of love. Kindness is the greatest power. Raymond froze. He watched silently as Maya pointed to the sign and said softly, "Now, my little ones, repeat after me." "Kindness is the greatest power," the twins chorused, their voices ringing through the golden-lit room. Maya laughed, that kind of laughter that carried both joy and pain. "Good. Because the world will tell you power means money, fame, or control. But that's not true. The real power lives here." She placed her hand over her heart. "In how kind you are." Raymond felt something twist inside his chest. He was a man who had built empires, led boardrooms, and turned every risk into gold. But at that moment, standing unseen in his own home, he felt powerless. Not from failure, but from realization. His children, his entire world, were learning something far greater than any lesson he had ever taught them. Emma tilted her head curiously. "But Maya, Daddy says power means being strong and rich." Maya smiled gently, a softness in her eyes. "Your daddy is a strong man, sweetheart. But strength isn't just about muscles or money. It's about being brave enough to be kind, even when others aren't." The twins nodded, their innocent faces glowing with thought. Raymond took a deep breath, his hand gripping the doorframe. He didn't know whether to step forward or keep watching. Something inside him, maybe guilt, maybe awe, kept him rooted. He realized then how long it had been since he'd heard his children speak with such joy, since their laughter felt so real. Every day he worked late, convinced that building wealth would build their future. But this young maid, this woman he barely knew, was building something he couldn't buy: their hearts. When Maya began to tell them a story about a poor girl who gave away her last piece of bread to a hungry dog, Raymond's eyes burned. "She didn't have much," Maya said, her voice soft but firm, "but she gave what she could. And that's what makes a person truly rich." Ethan asked, "Did she get anything back?" Maya smiled. "Yes, she did. She got peace and love. And that's worth more than all the gold in the world." The twins clapped, laughing again. Raymond's throat tightened. He'd spent years climbing ladders of success, but for the first time, he wondered if he'd been climbing the wrong one. The house that once echoed with silence now felt alive, not because of his money, but because of her. Maya, the maid he hired without even interviewing personally, had done what he never managed to do. She'd filled the mansion with meaning. His shadow falling across the floor, Maya turned around. Their eyes met. She froze. "Sir, I didn't know you were home, she stammered, standing quickly. I'm sorry, I was just... But Raymond raised a hand gently. Don't apologize. The twins ran to him, laughing, hugging his legs. Daddy, Maya was teaching us something beautiful. He looked at them, then at Maya, and smiled faintly. Yes, he whispered. I can see that. Inside, something in him shifted. The walls he'd built between work and family, pride and humility, began to crumble. He thought he'd surprise them by coming home early, but instead, he was the one who'd been surprised. Not by disobedience, not by failure, but by kindness. And for the first time in a long while, Raymond Kingston, the man who thought he had everything, realized he'd been missing the one thing that truly mattered. Love. The kind you don't buy, the kind you teach, the kind that changes everything.